Hello and welcome to another instalment of the PtiCrewOnline's Pitcast, from the fans for the fans. I'm Deputy Editor James, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, W Series and Road to Indy driver Sabré Cook. Hi Sabré, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Sabré's joining us from the airport after her last Indy Pro 2000 round in Mid-Ohio. How did that weekend go for you?
It was up and down. Our pace was definitely a lot better than Road America, so I was really happy with the improvements and the step forwards. The race on Wednesday, we had the first race, and I finished 11th in that one. Got passed on the last lap when I was 10th. I was running out of fuel, so I was just trying to hang on. And then going into the next day, we had another quali, and then the first race. I would have finished P9. We had a miscommunication with the team, unfortunately, and got the radios mixed up, and so ended up costing us and finishing P12 instead. And then the final race, I got crashed on the first lap in turn 2, so damaged the side pod, its floor, diffuser tray, and I think maybe a little bit bent on the right rear suspension. So
that's gutting.
It wasn't the best.
Yeah. So you've been back on track in America recently, like I said, with the Indy Pro 2000 and also the SCC Super Tour. How has it been returning to racing after quite a long break?
I mean, it's normal, I guess, but the break I feel like the break went by faster than I thought it was going to, just because, I was still really busy training and working with sponsors and trying to, figure out what we're going to do once everything starts going again. And then I was coaching and working, so it went by pretty fast. And then I had the esports stuff, so it was a kind of a nice break in a way, because you got to really catch up on some other things. But yeah, it feels normal.
So you were originally set for 6 races in Indy Pro 2000 this year with Team Bennick. Is that still the case, or has the pandemic changed plans a little bit?
No, the pandemic has changed things quite a lot on that front, and lost me a lot of sponsorships. So just because it's tough right now for everybody, so it's hard to justify the budgets that it costs to go racing when a company is suffering in other ways. So unfortunately, the only race I have left with Indy Pro as of right now is the next Mid-Ohio race. Past that, I don't have anything else confirmed for the rest of the year.
Okay. Let's talk about the W Series. What was your reaction when you heard that W Series wouldn't be racing at all this year? And have you had any news yet about whether you'll still qualify for Season 2 when it gets underway in 2021?
When I heard the news, I was obviously, disappointed and bummed about it. But I really understand W Series predicament, because, they're dependent on the other series, and both series were constantly changing schedules. And then at the end, it would be mostly in Europe with TTM, but then that means we would all have to come there and stay there. So we wouldn't be able to leave. And then there's all the testing procedures you have to go through, and that's quite expensive. And having so many drivers from so many different countries, it was just going to be like a logistical nightmare for them. So I completely understand their decision and support it. I mean, obviously it stinks not to be on track, but I completely understand. And, they're pushing forward to go into next year. You're always hoping that you still get to have a seat for the next season. But I think right now everything is so uncertain that they can't confirm that everyone will be carrying over to the next year.
Of course, must have been a double sting when W Series was due to debut in America this year. How much were you looking forward to that round in Texas?
Very, very much so. And then the worst part is I had some friends and family that already bought tickets to plane tickets to be able to go to the race. So that was really unfortunate. But I'm hoping that next year we'll just kind of pick up where we left off, and we'll be able to be with the USGP.
And so speaking of last year, you had a very solid season with lots of points finishes and a podium in the non-championship race at Assen. What goals did you set yourself to build on that in Season 2?
So for Season 2, focused on making sure I finish in the points every single race. No like big mistakes like I had last year where, prevented me from finishing in the points every race. And then really focus on, scratching into those top 5 finishes in all the championship points races, and just basically continuing to develop myself as a driver and making sure that I vet all my weaknesses throughout the season. So that way I continue to progress from start to finish, just like I did last year.
And you mentioned as well that in the break, obviously, you've been kept busy with the esports league that W Series has put together. How much have you enjoyed this opportunity to try something a little bit different? I remember a tweet you put out about getting used to Twitch and sim racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been difficult because when you go, like, I think it's just been a little bit frustrating because when you go up against like PtiCrewOnline, who's so good on a sim and she just has so much experience with it, you're like, being a competitive person, you're just like, I want to just be as fast as you are. And so that part has been like, it's been great because I think having that new challenge and learning new things is super vital to keep growing as a human being, and being able to deal with challenges on learning something new and kind of going back to square one and almost like being like a rookie, and having to learn and adapt through there and learning how to cope with the stress and cope with the frustration. And so it was nice. And, you get to simulate a lot of things that you would experience during a race weekend, like preparing yourself, going through your mentality, trying to keep yourself calm when you go into, because I feel like my heart rate when I first started e-racing, I was like, how is my heart rate this high right now going into qualifying, and I am just sitting in this seat, I'm not even moving. So it was different, but I really liked being able to try something new.
That's something I found quite interesting watching these esports races over the last few months, is that from the outside, obviously it looks like it uses a very similar skill set to driving a real car, because you've still got the wheel and the seat and everything. But yeah, realizing that it is such a different skill, even for for a real life driver. What kind of, in terms of like the feel of the car, like what kind of things are you missing when you're sim racing?
I guess, well, it honestly depends how good of a sim you have. So if you've got, more realistic wheel and pedals, then it becomes a bit, you can rely on the feedback of those a little bit more. But if you don't have something that's quite as realistic, then it, obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult. But mostly with sim racing, you're so reliant on your vision and you don't have, you don't have the weight transfer, you don't have the G-forces, you don't have the feedback of your butt in the seat, right? So that takes away so many other sensory things. And so it's really just based on like visual and maybe some audio, but it's in some ways it does really develop your vision and learning how important it is to like look ahead through the corners and really pay attention to what you're focusing on. But yeah, it's difficult because it does take away a lot, but in the end it can give you can train other things.
Is that something that you so when you go back to racing full time, do you think maybe where it's taken away some of the senses and you've had to rely on your vision a bit more, do you think you may have sort of developed those skills a little bit more to help on track?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely think that it can help with because we know when you have everything available to you, all of your senses, like if you've heard of people that they go blind or something, and then their sense of taste and touch is like accentuated. So I think it's the same thing where you sharpen those senses when you take other things away.
One of the highlights of the W Series Esports League so far has been seeing you all take on tracks you wouldn't normally be racing at, like Bathurst and Suzuka. Which tracks have you enjoyed most so far? And are there any in particular you'd love to have a go at in a real car?
Well, I haven't made all of them because I've been having some races in real life, because the ones that I did make, a lot of them, I think, we've driven Brands Hatch and we were going to drive Monza, but I think the one that we've driven we drove Spa, but I've driven Spa. So it's the ones that the ones that I've missed are the ones that I haven't actually been to. So I'm like, dang. But I did get to do Bathurst, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I think in real life, it would be intense for sure, but I would definitely like to give it a go.
You've also joined Shift Up Now as an ambassador this year. Can you tell us a little bit more about who they are and what your work with them has been?
Yeah, so Shift Up Now, I'm quite new to the whole organization, but basically it is a program that brings in ambassadors, and then you can, you help mentor, and they have junior ambassadors as well. And so it's just a group of women trying to, encourage the presence in motorsports and have like a really strong support system for those young ones coming up, and using the knowledge and experience of other people that have, done it, and then offering opportunities wherever they can, however they can. I mean, it's not like they have a ton of money and they can just invest in your career, but they try to, introduce you to people and get you the right connections in any way that they can. And they're still growing and developing, and they're really sweet ladies. So I think they found their passion for racing later in life, and they're just trying to, raise the numbers for women in motorsports, and it's a cool program to be involved with.
And that's something you seem to be quite involved with, is that kind of helping people up through motorsport. Like you said, you've been doing a lot of coaching. I've seen a lot on social media of you talking about the students that you've been helping out at kart tracks. How has that been?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, I love coaching, especially like the young kids, or even like I had my last one I just coached before I left was, I think he's 67 years old. So I just do the whole spectrum, whatever works. And at the end of the day, coaching is great because I think it was Einstein, if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough yourself. So I think being able to coach, you honestly end up recognizing more detailed things and understanding things more when you're having to explain it, and you see it every day. So I think it's, as much as I love coaching, it honestly helps me just as much, because it makes me better. It makes my communication better. So I've really enjoyed it.
As well as a driver, you're also an engineer. You've got a degree in mechanical engineering, and you worked with the Renault F1 team last year as part of the Infinity Engineering Academy. How did you get into engineering? Did it come from your racing, or did engineering come first?
I think they kind of grew together, because I did start racing, karting when I was almost 8, but I was already interested in math and science, and the 3rd grade is when I really took to it. And so I think that's maybe about the same time. And then racing obviously fosters that sort of curiosity and environment. So they just grew hand in hand, and I kept pursuing both and kept enjoying school. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I did really like it. And just had some great professors, great teachers, and I think that obviously helped my interests as I progressed through school.
Can you talk us through some of the work that you did with Renault last year? Or are you under some sort of secret agreement for that?
I can tell you what I did, but I can't tell you details. So last year I worked in the composites department and the suspension group. And so I was in charge of the rear top wishbone for this year's car. So the ones that's physically on the car, like the wishbone and the end fittings, is what I helped do at my time there.
How amazing is it seeing the car going around on track, knowing that you had a part in making it?
It's super cool. Like to have that experience and have it, it's a very small part of the whole thing, but to just be involved in some way it feels great. And it also, I'm so thankful to Renault and to Infinity for giving me the opportunity to be able to do that. And then, trusting me and mentoring me through the process to make sure that, everything was done up to their standards. And I got to learn so much along the way.
Do you have moments when you see Ricciardo and Ocon going wheel to wheel on track thinking, no, don't break my wishbones?
It's okay. They've got plenty more, so it's fine.
We've got a few questions from our fans they wanted to put to you. The first one is, how much did you learn that can help you when you go racing from working somewhere as well-oiled as a Formula One team?
I think it helps immensely because, when you're a racing driver, in some ways, you're kind of like your own entrepreneur because you have to, raise sponsorships. So you see it needs to be run like a business. And when you go and work for a big company like Infinity and you work with a well-oiled machine like Renault, then seeing, what makes them successful in business also can help carry over into that, as well as if I, were to go work again full-time as an engineer, carrying over some of the practices that they introduced to me, I think is very valuable.
Before you were able to get back racing again, what kind of work and training were you able to do to keep on top of your game?
During the shutdown?
Yeah.
So I mean, I trained at the gym until the gym shut down. And then I was fortunate that in my dad's house, actually downstairs, they have like a little workout room. So there was like some equipment in there, and that's where I did most of my training. And then, I could still train on my bike, and Colorado's very outdoorsy, so I could still go outside and maybe hike, bike, those sort of things. And I used my iron neck, which was super helpful because you can't drive. So. And then once things started opening up a bit more, I actually drove my shifter cart quite a bit to try and get back in driving condition. And one of my best friend has a shifter cart as well, so he would go out and drive with me. So that was great. And other training, I guess that's mostly it. I have a spec Miata that when it runs and when it's together, and I can do some car control stuff with that, but I don't have a car track to drive it on, so that gets a bit interesting sometimes. So, but it's mostly like and then I'll do some reaction training as well. I actually just got those Blaze pods. Have you seen them? They're really, really cool.
I haven't, no.
So they're like, you can use them for other sports too, but they're like just little round lights, and they come with like suction cup mounts or strap mounts, and you can mount them to things. So you can like form them in a specific formation, and to touch the light, you have to the light comes on and you have to hit it to shut it off. There's so many things you can do with those, and bring them into like other sports. And they like within the app, you can filter the type of drills based on what sport you're doing. And how many pods you have, and like what's your focus, and it's really cool. It's unique. I'm still trying to figure out all the ways I can use them, because it's kind of overwhelming, all the stuff you can do. But it's pretty cool.
What did you do on your school's Formula SAE team, and how useful of an experience was it?
So I think at first. The first time I got involved with them, I was like a freshman. So I was, brand new, like just mostly trying to learn. And I helped a tiny bit with sponsorship, but I was pretty busy racing, so I didn't get as involved as I would have liked to. And then later on in I think it was my junior, maybe it was my sophomore year. It's so long ago now. With sophomore or junior year, I helped develop the shifting system. We went to paddle shifters that year that we did a competition. And then what else did I do? Oh, I did the engine stuff sophomore year, and then the shifting system junior year. Senior year, I actually ended up dropping because I went into car racing in 2017 more like the first time. That was my first year in cars, and I was trying to graduate. I was a senior. There was a lot going on, so I ended up not doing the last year in FSC.
It must have been quite handy having someone who understands a car from, the racing perspective as well as the engineering perspective.
Yeah, it can be, yeah.
And in terms of your future, obviously you've got your driving career, you've got your work as an engineer, you're in the road to Indy at the moment, and also racing in Europe at W Series. Where do you aim to go in, let's say, 5 years' time?
So I guess in 5 years, well, I can do 3 years. In 3 years, my goal is to the 3-year goal is to progress, obviously be able to finally do a full season in the Indy Pro 2000, progress full season in Indy Lights, and then eventually go to IndyCar, hopefully by 2023 that's the goal right now. Obviously still do W Series, for at least one more year. I don't know what's going to be available with that, but just keep going. And then the engineering side of things, I'll still be learning where I can and still helping out, doing small jobs here and there. But for right now, because, racing is very age dependent, so I need to kind of take advantage of that opportunity right now, put all my focus into it. And then if the 3-year plan doesn't work out, back to engineering.
Back to math and science.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's all we've got time for today, all the questions we have. Thank you very much for joining us, Sabré. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's okay. Before we go, where can we next see you out on track?
Actually, next week, when IndyCar goes to Mid-Ohio, we will be there with them and the MX5 Championship. So it's the 7th through the 9th, and you can watch on IndyPro2000.com or on the Road to Indy app. And you can follow all my social media channels. It's Sabré Cook or Sabré Cook Racing on Facebook, and then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. Yes, thank you for joining us, Sabré. I've been James Matthews.
Problem.
You can find me on Twitter at James16Matthews. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you out on track.